All right, so we saw how we could use the auto-wired annotation to point to the constructor injection point and the setter method as injection point, as secondary injection points. The third injection point that is left is the field actually injection point, and we could use the auto-wired to tell the spring, to tell the IOC container to feed an instance, to find a bean definition and to treat it same as one of the parameters inside the constructor or setter method. So let's do that. Let's get rid of these setter methods here, and let's say that we want to ask the Spring IOC container to auto-wire these dependencies directly. And so the engine is a component and the gearbox is a component. Now, let me change these two to null values, and I want to prove that these values are injected. So I change the values to null at the one and only constructor, and then the start function will be called by actually the main method. So there must be an instance of these dependencies in the place when we call them, or it will throw an exception. So if it does not throw an exception, it means that these two fields have been auto-wired and have been provided by an instance. So if I run it, you see that there is no exception here, and that is the sync. So let me have a print ln here, starting with engine and gearbox. So let me just print out the engine instance here. You see that starting with engine, and there is an engine actually inside this field, and we have not provided that instance from the constructor or from the setter method, but we have asked the IOC container to auto-wire it to provide an instance from the bean definitions actually. So it first calls the constructor and then it tries to satisfy the fields. So again, the visibility modifier doesn't matter. It could be private, public, but the same as setter methods or constructors, having a private field will make the car class dependent to Spring, So if this field has to be fed by some dependency instance, and if it is the only way to satisfy it by field injection, then only the Spring IOC container would be able to do that, and that is not good. And also, if we make it public to actually overcome this situation, so that we could provide it outside the Spring, then again making a field as public is not a good idea, So because of these caveats, field auto-wiring is prohibited actually. They say that we should not use field injection. We should use constructor, and then if we need to, we should use the setter method. Setter methods injections actually, not the field. Field injection has a lot of problems and caveats. And also, if the required parameter of this auto-wired annotation acts the same way as the constructor or setter. So if it is required as true, which is by default true, then there must be a bean definition that satisfies the engine. So now it will fail because there is no engine, bean definition there, and it will fail because yeah. But if we make it false, it will first try to satisfy it, and if it does not, then it will just ignore it. So it won't fail, but the start method will fail, because the start method actually needs an engine this time, but the Spring was unable to do that. But the Spring provided the instance of the car, you know. So yeah, that is the required. And let me just uncomment the component, and you see that it is working all good. Okay. And also actually with auto wired, it doesn't matter if you place it on top of the field or constructor or setter methods. It will try to find for bean definitions by type. You know, the type matters here. And we will come back to this by type actually resolution in the next videos, and when we see the ambiguous situation. Okay, that is the field injection point that we should actually we should not use it at all.